How's it going? Welcome to this week's Q&A. So like any other week, if you want a chance for one of your questions being answered in a video just like this one, make sure you do comment down below and I'll try to feature it in a future video or answer it in your comment itself if need be. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first question of the week. And it is, when should you be doing your alignment? So how many miles and at what intervals and stuff like that. So that's really a tough question to answer because really depends on the situation. So if you live in an area where the roads are relatively clean and you don't have pothole every 5 to 10 seconds or so like we do here in the tri-state area, then you'll probably be okay with doing it maybe once or twice every 1 or 2 years or something along those lines. It's a good idea to do it every 15,000 miles or so. Here in the tri-state area, like I said, there is a ton of potholes. It's almost, you have to pick on which one you're going to avoid so you can hit the smaller one. So you could go ahead and do an alignment today and then tomorrow hit a pothole, or even the same day, and then throw everything off. It really depends on how big that pothole is. You should definitely be doing an alignment every time you get a new set of tires to make sure that everything is wearing out as even as possible, and like that you get the most out of your tires. So again, it really depends on the situation. If you know you've been hitting a lot of potholes, once a year, 12 to 15,000 miles is probably ideal. Now, if you have a massive pothole and you notice your steering wheel or a car's pulling, then you should get inspected thoroughly. Make sure nothing as far as the suspension components got damaged, or even a tire or a wheel got bent or a belt shifted on the tire. But if you live in an area where you don't really have bad situations like we do here, then I would say best case scenario once a year, maybe every 2 years tops. I want to push it past that. Also, look at your tires. If you see they're starting to wear funny, then obviously you want to get it looked at. It's possible, even if you didn't hit something, maybe you do have a loose component from the suspension causing that wear. So you should get that checked out anyways. And it may be that you need to get those suspension components fixed or replaced before you even do an alignment. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, so the next question is, what is the hardest job I have done? Well, there are several, but most recently, and it's not even that it's a hard job, it's a very time consuming and tedious job. And that would be an engine bay harness on the current generation Honda Odysseys. Now, there's nothing major going on with them. So if you have an Odyssey, there's no need to panic. It's just most of these cars have been accident or flood damage or something along those lines that I've had to replace this harness. So again, nothing that you need to be concerned with unless if there's an accident or there's some sort of water damage once again. So in order to do these harnesses, all the seats have to come out of the vehicle. So first, second, and a third row. Then you have to remove some of the paneling on the insides. I believe it even goes to the current airbags up in the headliner, so we could sneak in there. You got to be very gentle so we don't damage the headliner, although I believe you're technically supposed to drop the headliner. You also have to take out the carpet. You have to take out the magic seat rails for the second row. In order to do that, you have to remove the exhaust and remove the fuel tank. So as you can see, it's a ton of stuff you have to take out. You almost need a second bay just to store all the parts that you're removing from the vehicle. Best case scenario, you're doing this job in a full 8-hour shift, and that's if you don't get pulled off the car like I constantly do. So it usually takes me about 2 or 3 days because again, I'm constantly getting pulled off this car. But again, nothing too over the top, just very tedious, a lot of stuff to take out. If you're doing a job like this, take pictures. Make sure you line up everything, put certain clips and certain screws with X panel. And again, take pictures so like that you make sure everything goes back exactly where it needs to be. So hopefully that answers this question for you. All right, so the next question is, do you have to remove the alternator to get to the water pump on a K24W engine? So that's the Earthstream's K24, found in a 13 to 70 chords, and the I believe it's 12 to 16 CRVs or something along those lines, and even continue into the next generation CRVs and other vehicles. So in that case, yes, you do. You have to take out the alternator, and I believe you have to take out the tensioner to take out the alternator. So it becomes a pretty extensive job. And in a lot of situations, you do have to remove multiple components to get to these water pumps. So it's not really a simple job like it used to be back in those simpler motors. A lot of them also back in the day were timing belt driven. So Honda really doesn't have a good reputation of having easy water pump replacements. Although if you use OEM water pumps, they rarely fail. Sometimes they do more than others, but especially on a V6s, anything time belt driven, it was very rare that they would actually leak and fail and stuff like that. Some of these external ones now, they do leak, make noises, stuff like that. And it is just as time consuming as doing a time belt. So really depends on the situation. Even on the L15s, there's bolts from behind that you kind of have to work around the downpipe or the OEM catalytic converter to get to. And once again, not too crazy, but it is time consuming. Some of these vehicles, you have to take out the mount just to give you either more space or to give you the ability to raise the engine so you can reach certain bolts. Some people don't like to take out more stuff. I believe taking out more stuff and making the job easier for me is better. Other people like to take out less stuff. But in this case of the K24W, yes, you got to take out the alternator, you got to take out the tensioner, take out the alternator, and then you could reach to that water pump. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, so this next question is about an intermittent window issue. So most cases, it might just be something as simple as a window switch possibly broken or sticking, or a window motor. As these vehicles get older, we start seeing issues in the door harnesses where the window will work if the door is open or closed, but not the other way around. So easy way to test this is you open a door, start wiggling the wires at the door harness. Obviously be careful not to close the door on your hands or pinch a finger or anything like that. But a lot of times as these vehicles age, we do see braille and brittle wires inside of that door jamb, causing an intermittent issue, and then obviously leading to a complete failure. People automatically assume that it's a window motor or a switch or something along those lines. And oftentimes, again, as they get older, it might just be a broken wire inside that door jamb. So definitely do not overlook that. Make sure if you're replacing one of these, windows or a regulator or whatever, then you're checking for a power and ground at the window motor. If you got no power and ground, then go back to your switch, go to the door jamb, etc. Now, if you have power and ground at the window motor, then in that case, it's safe to assume that the window motor has failed. So that's some of the things we see. Obviously, it could be many other things, but typically window switch, window motor, or the door harness at the door itself. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, so last but not least, question of the week. And once again, if you want a chance to win any question being answered, make sure you do drop a comment down below. So the question is, what should you be doing post-used car purchase? So before you even purchase a car, you should be doing your research on common issues on those cars on a channel just like mine. If it's a Honda, my channel is great for that. If it's a Toyota, Nissan, etc., just find something, a channel, a mechanic that's specific and knowledgeable with that certain brand, so you could go prepared to what to expect when buying these vehicles and look at those common issues. And if everything's okay, great. If not, use that as leverage. So if you did that and you did a pre-scan, of the TTCs, make sure nothing's there, no funny business. I have multiple videos on this. After you purchase the car, you should still get it looked at by a trained technician or your trusted mechanic. At that point, he should be looking at tires, brakes, hoses, belts, suspension components, fluids, stuff like that. If the fluids don't have a dipstick like many cars don't do nowadays, then obviously see if there's some sort of service history. If there's no service history, then I would absolutely recommend changing those fluids, getting new blades, new filters, the basics. Make sure everything is up and running. If the vehicle is equipped with a timing belt, then again, check the service history. If there's no service history and it's been 6-7 years, it's got 100,000 miles, get that timing belt replaced along with the tensioner, and make sure that you are safe. Last thing you want to do is, skip out on spending $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever the case may be, and have the time belt break and you cause catastrophic damage to that engine. So in this case, if you have to use that maintenance as leverage, if they don't have a service history, question them on it. Ask them, hey, what's the history on this? Do you know if it's been serviced? If it hasn't been serviced, well, I don't know. I want to check with my mechanic, or, I need you to do work on that price a little bit so I can get this car up to tip-top shape, especially for the price of the cars are going nowadays. It's pretty ridiculous. Some of them are pretty expensive, and you can use that as some bargaining power. Now, whether or not they go for it, that depends on the situation, but I would absolutely at least ask the questions. And if the deal is too good to be true, that means it probably is, and you should probably walk away with it. So hopefully that answers the question for you, and I'll catch everyone on the next one.